Good evening. It is September 12th, 2022, and it's approximately 6:03. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Before we begin our meeting, there will be one general period of public comment tonight during oral communications. Persons speaking during the general public comment period may provide the planning board oral communication on any matter concerning city business. Members of the public may comment in person or by telephone during the general public hearing comment periods. If you would like to participate in public comment period by making an in-person comment, please present a completed speaker card to our planning division staff. If you would like to participate in the public comment period by telephone, please call 818-238-3335. We will announce when the phone lines are open. Tonight, our invocation will be given by Mr. Atakanian, and I will lead us in our flag salute. If you'll please stand.
Heavenly Father, give us patience and the wisdom to serve you and the great citizens of this city. In your name I pray, amen.
Please join me in saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have the roll call, please?
Board Member Monaco,
Here.
Board Member Atakunian,
Present.
Vice Chair Azadi,
I am here.
Board Member Elric. Let the record show Board Member Elric is absent.
Do we have any announcements from city staff?
No new announcements.
Okay. So we have three public hearing on tonight's agenda. Item number 1, now is the time and place for the hearing on project number 21003268, a request for a development review and conditional use permit to replace two existing single-story self-storage buildings with two new three-story self-storage buildings totaling 46,419 square feet within an existing self-storage facility located at 118 Graham Place. Before we begin, do any planning board members have any legal, financial, or other conflict of interest regarding this hearing?
No.
No. Have any planning board members have any communications, including written, oral, with the applicant's representative, or any other person?
No.
No. Mr. Ramirez, have the notices by law been given?
The notices required by law have been given.
Are there any written communications on this matter?
Beyond anything that would be included in your packet, no, we have not received any additional comments.
Okay. Will the representative of the Community Development Department please introduce yourself and summarize the matter for us? Good evening.
Can you please pull up that presentation, please?
Hey, Greg,
I don't think your mic is on.
let's just make sure. I think if we can get the mic at the podium.
Testing?
There we go.
Works. Okay. Good evening, Vice Chair Azadi and members of the board. My name is Greg Mirzavakian. I'm an associate planner with the Community Development Department, Planning Division. For your consideration tonight is project number 21-0003268, an application for development review and conditional use permit to replace two existing single-story self-storage buildings with two new three-story self-storage buildings with surface parking at a self-storage facility located at 118 Graham Place. The project representative is Brandon Varon from BAR Enterprises, LLC. Next slide, please. The project site is located at 118 Graham Place within the M2 General Industrial Zone. The project site encompasses a single LA County parcel highlighted in yellow on the aerial photo on the left. The self-storage facility is split, with the western part within the city of Burbank and the eastern part within the city of Glendale. The portion of the site within the city of Burbank is 40,600 square feet in size. The project site is bounded by light industrial uses to the west, south, and east, and by Graham Place to the north, approximately 150 feet south of the intersection of Graham Place and San Fernando Road within the city of Glendale. The project site is located more than 500 feet away from any residentially zoned properties within the city of Burbank. Regional access to the project site is provided via Interstate 5, located to the west of the project site. Local access to the site is provided from East Alameda Avenue and San Fernando Road in the city of Glendale. The proposed reconstructed driveways are located on Graham Place. Next slide, please. The project site is relatively flat, rectangular-shaped property that is currently developed with 4 self-storage buildings with a total of 24,092 square feet of gross floor area and 16 non-conforming parking spaces. Buildings A and D are single-story structures that will be demolished if this request is approved. With the exception of a narrow strip of grass in front of the property, there is no landscaping on or in the vicinity of the project site. Next slide, please. The DR and CUP request is to replace 2 existing single-story self-storage buildings with 2 new 3-story self-storage buildings with surface parking at a self-storage facility located at 118 Graham Place. Public storage is allowed by right in the M2 zone within the list of authorized uses listed in the Burbank Municipal Code. However, the proposed project requires a CUP due to the proposed parking number and height. The parking requirement for this use is not explicitly listed in the parking section of the code. Per Burbank Municipal Code Section 10-1-1408, for uses not listed in the parking section, the required parking may be determined by the planning board. A CUP is also required for structures within the M2 zone that exceed the height of 35 feet from grade, pursuant to Burbank Municipal Code Section 10-1-1812, subsection A3. And development review is required prior to any building permit for any project unless specifically exempted, and none of those exemptions apply to this project. Next slide, please. Before you is the proposed site plan, which shows the locations of the proposed buildings and restriped parking. Buildings A and D will be located in approximately the same location as the existing buildings. The applicant proposes 9 standard parking spaces to replace the non-conforming on-site parking. The proposed self-storage structures meet the development standards for the M2 zone related to structure heights, required setbacks, landscaping, fence heights, and surface parking design standards, as well as general property development regulations for building design and screening. Next slide, please. Before you is the proposed design for Building A. The proposed design is a modern industrial design that uses a variety of materials, windows, and building articulation to meet the minimum commercial and industrial design standards outlined in the Burbank Municipal Code. The structure is clad with alternating vertical and horizontal exterior metal siding, painted CMU cladding, and aluminum frame windows. Next slide, please. And this is a replacement for Building D, and it has similar design to Building A with the same material palette and approximately the same dimensions. Next, please. The code does not currently have an explicit parking standard for the self-storage use. To establish a parking requirement for the self-storage use, the Transportation Planning Division staff reviewed an inventory of existing parking studies and regional industry standards. Based on studies of existing self-storage facilities in the city of Burbank, other peer cities in the Los Angeles County area, and the Institute of Transportation Engineers Parking Generation Guide, the transportation planning staff determined that a minimum parking rate of 0.2 spaces for every 1,000 square feet is sufficient for self-storage use. To memorialize this determination, the Transportation Planning Division has prepared a proposed policy number 10-1-1408, explaining the proposed new minimum parking requirement for self-storage use. If this project is approved, this will be the minimum required parking standard for all future self-storage projects. Based on this policy, 9 parking spaces will be required. The project proposes to provide 9 spaces for the proposed 45,178 square feet of adjusted gross floor area. And that is the portion that is on the Burbank side of the property line. And that would be consistent with the proposed policy. Next one, please. Pursuant to Burbank Municipal Code Section 10-1-1812A, the maximum height for a structure on the project site is 70 feet, with additional 15 feet allowed for roof and architectural features. However, the Burbank Municipal Code requires that any structure higher than 35 feet in this zone be approved through a conditional use permit. The proposed height for Building A is above 35 feet, but it does not exceed 40 feet at its highest point. Given that the proposed structure is located more than 500 feet from the nearest residentially zoned parcel, the impact from the requested 5-foot increase is minimal, and the building will be consistent with the surrounding built environment. So staff supports the granting of this request. Next slide, please. The existing hours of operation are from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday, and 9 a.m. to 3:45 p.m. on Sunday. The project application did not include a request to modify these hours. However, the project site is a light industrial use in a cluster of similar uses, and there will be no noise impact to residential uses. In order to offer the business more flexibility in the future, staff recommends a condition of approval to allow more permissive hours of operation from 6 a.m. to midnight daily. Next slide, please. Planning staff received 2 inquiries about this project, and these inquiries were neither in support nor in opposition to the project. Next slide, please. Based on staff's analysis, the proposed use will be compatible with the existing use on site, as it will be an expansion of the existing use. Furthermore, the use will be compatible with the light industrial land uses found in the general area, which is characterized by similar uses. Conditions of approval are included to ensure that the operations within the facility are compatible with surrounding uses. Between the submitted components of the project in conjunction with staff's recommended conditions of approval, planning staff believes that all 7 findings for the DR and CUP are satisfied. Next slide, please. The proposed request is consistent with the Burbank Municipal Code and the requirements needed to secure a DR and CUP to replace 2 existing single-story self-storage buildings with 2 3-story self-storage buildings. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Board approve the CUP application and the DR based on the determination that all required findings can be made for project 21-0003268 and adopt the attached resolution with the proposed conditions of approval. Staff also recommends that the Planning Board find that the project qualifies for a categorical exemption for an infill project in accordance with Section 15.332 of the state CEQA guidelines. Next slide, please. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions the board may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will now invite the applicant or their representative to address the planning board. You will have a maximum time of 15 minutes to make your presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Don't have much to add to Greg, our staff planner's comments. Nonetheless, I'm the architect of record, and the client's here. If you have any other questions, we'll be happy to address them.
Okay, thank you. We will now open up the meeting to hear from any persons who wish to speak on this matter. Each person may address the planning board for a maximum time of 3 minutes. For members of the public who wish to comment in person, please present the completed speaker card to the planning division staff if you wish to speak. For members of the public that wish to comment by telephone, please call 818-238-3335 to address the planning board. Callers will be placed in the queue until all persons' comments have been received. The phone lines are now open. Please bear with us as it may take a couple of minutes for the first callers to get through the line. For callers, please remember to lower the volume on your TV or computer and take your phone off speaker when you deliver your comment. Do we have any callers or somebody wanted to appear for public comment?
Not yet, but we will wait the 2 minutes.
Okay. While we're doing that, I'm going to introduce to the record that Mr. Elric is now here. Okay.
There are no callers in the queue.
Okay, there being no further public comment on this item, seeing none, I now declare the public comment period closed. Would the representative of the Community Development Department like to make any further comments? Thank you. Does the applicant or the representative wish to make any further comments? The applicant is shaking their head no. Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Board Member Monaco, Mr. Elwood will be next. Let's see what we got. Okay.
Hi, just three quick informational questions. Will any of the units be climate controlled?
I will defer to the applicant to answer that question.
Yes, the interior units will be the drive-up units with the direct access with the roll-up doors off the driveways. They're not climate controlled.
They're not?
Correct.
Okay. And then, are you going to have any restrictions on the use of the storage facilities themselves, like no storing gasoline, things like that?
Well, those are restrictions already required by the fire department,
Okay.
but then the operator, the owner-operator, Bar Enterprises, already has that within their conditions of rental for their tenants.
And just sort of ties in with possible commercial use, which I understand, you can use it to store your salesman, whatever. I've done a few of these. What's the largest unit?
I believe it was a 10 by 20.
Oh, okay.
I'd have to look real quick, but no larger than 10 by 30, but I think they're 10 by 20.
Okay. No, that's really it.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Mr. Elric?
I think I read that there are 18 parking spaces now, and you guys are going to go down to 9. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because I drove by the facility, and every single parking space was full, as well as all the parking on the street was full.
Well-
And you guys are going to double the facility and provide less parking?
My understanding, a lot of those, that some of those parkings are not actually, the vehicles parked there were actually stored there, so they will be off the site from my understanding.
Okay.
If I may add to that, the resolution includes a draft condition of approval to restrict the on-site parking to not allow long-term parking of vehicles, and such a condition does not currently exist on the property.
Any other questions? So I noticed the same thing when I drove by, but I did notice that in the conditions approval, so I just want to make sure that's adhered to. How many employees will be there?
Typically, there's 2 to 3 at the most employees.
So
Always
that-
one in the office and another one to roam the facility.
So that'll take up 3 of the 9 spots?
I believe so. Maybe, hang on for a sec. Any comment on that? I'll let the owner speak with it.
Aren't you concerned about, I mean, it's a pretty big facility that you're trying to build, and you only have 9 spots, and then 3 of them will be taken up potentially by.
So, my name is Brandon Marin. I'm the owner of the property. How you guys doing? Thank you for your time and consideration. The facility now, of all the parking spots that we have, they're all long-term rentals. So they're people who park there on a month-to-month basis. So when you drive by and you see all those parking spaces, they're taken up by tenants. They're not there. Because of the conditions, we will no longer have those cars being there. And then as far as the street parking goes, you have a portion of San Fernando that's always like a 2-hour maximum. You can't park there. That section of Graham, unfortunately, the cars can park there 24 hours a day with no like time limits or anything like that. So we get a lot of people, homeless and different people who are parking there consistently. So we're constantly having to deal with, transportation and PD in order to get them out of there so that they're not living in and on that street right there. So during the day, we move them out pretty regularly, and then all of our people park either in front of the facility on San Fernando, so we wouldn't be occupying those parking spaces. As a idea for storage needs, as far as like people loading and unloading and stuff like that, on an average, we have between 1 to 3 cars. Even on our busiest days, Saturdays, we have at most like 5 cars that are unloading and loading. Currently, we have a 100,000 square foot facility in North Hollywood that has a total of 7 parking spots total for the entire facility. So I feel like the parking that we've provided is more than adequate, considering the loading zones also that we've provided for people to unload and load and temporarily be there.
So in addition to the 9 parking spots, how many loading zones are there?
3, I believe. Great.
There are 3 that are accessible at all times, and there's one
Right.
that is, in addition to that, behind parking.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant while he's here? Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for your time.
I now declare the public comment period closed. The planning board will now deliberate. What is the planning board's pleasure? Mr. Monaco,
You want to make a motion? to approve?
go ahead and make a motion.
Okay. I'd like to make, okay. I move that a resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Burbank approve project number 21-000 through 3268, a development review and conditional use permit to replace 2 existing single-story self-storage buildings with 2 new 3-story self-storage buildings totaling 46,419 square feet within an existing self-storage facility located at 118 Graham Place, based on the findings of fact and subject to the attached conditions of approval.
We have a motion.
I second it.
We have a second. Do we want to deliberate or discuss anything?
I would like to discuss it.
Go ahead, Mr. Eldred.
So this is going to affect all future storage facilities, and what if they're not as large as this one? We're going to have less parking spaces, more people on the street parking, and I think that them going from 18 to 9 seems like it might not be enough.
However, all the storage spaces are restricted by zone. So they're not going to be residentially adjacent. They're going to be in a similar zone that this facility is going to be in.
Right. Yeah.
And as to that, as far as the parking's concerned, how long does an average person go there and stay there? It's not a place where you can eat, drink, or, entertain yourself. It's a matter of, putting materials in and getting materials out.
Yep.
So it's a short period. And the important piece of information that I wanted to solicit, which the owner provided, was that during a day, their busiest day, they have 3 people coming in. So even with 5, let's say, individuals coming in who want to, visit their storage facility for some reason or another, I think the parking should be adequate. And the city did do its due diligence as far as trying to figure out per square foot, what are we looking at here? And it seems like throughout the years, that's what the average is. So
Right.
we have to trust that calculation.
And there's 3 parking spots, 9 parking spots, but there's 3 loading and unloading, which I think that is probably primarily what people are going to be doing is if they got a U-Haul, they're going to be unloading there, but if they have a car or something, they'll be in the spots, the parking spots, so
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with it.
And
Yeah,
there's
it's-
also
it's just when I
the
drove by,
Yeah.
every single spot was taken.
Because they're renting them.
Right.
But they're not,
So-
there's conditions of approval in here where they cannot do that anymore.
Right, I understand that, but it didn't, they look like normal, people, cars, not like something someone would store there, so.
You mean it's not a 1962 Camaro
No.
or something like that? Okay.
You're not going to find that in a storage facility.
But I think economics will also take care of itself. Meaning, if people go there and they're not able to park and they have to wait, so they can access their storage facility,
That's true.
they're not going to rent there anymore.
Yeah.
So it would be in the best interest of the owner to make sure that there's sufficient parking, so that the patrons who visit the site, they can get in and they can get out comfortably.
You're absolutely
It's
right.
going to hurt. He's making a huge investment in this. As far as construction goes, we know what construction costs are these days. So it would be in his best interest to make sure that he's got the facility to support it.
Right.
Vice Chair, if
Sure.
I may, I think to both your points, Board Member Ulrich and Board Member Altakanian, one thing is included as Exhibit G1 is the parking policy
Yeah.
that Transportation Planning put together. They did do the due diligence in looking at other cities, and I believe the 0.2 per thousand is actually above even the conservative number of 0.15. So one thing we can do, you bring up really good points, by the way, is since this is a new policy, we're asking the board to approve that in combination with this. One thing we can do is look at it and then in a year's time come back and just a general report, not like tied to the project, but just a general report, say if and when we do get others, what has been the situation, just to confirm the validity of the policy. But it is important to note that the policy would be the one that we would apply to these
Future.
type of facilities. So I think the analysis is there to justify it, but point well taken. It can't be both the parking requirement without also accounting for, if we were to allow a future storage, we would have to deal with that issue as well as far as anybody doing vehicle storage. But that has its own set of criteria. But I think to your point, collectively, the discussion's good on the concern, but I believe the policy, based on the survey and analysis that was done, would ensure to address that concern as far as turnover and accessibility. And then to your point, the 3 that they're netting out with employees is offset by the storage, the loading areas. So I think they're in good shape there. So I just wanted to make sure, just to draw your attention to it, great debate and discussion, but the policy, I think, will ensure that we have the right requirement going forward. And we'll, like I said, we can report back if that's an action of the board.
Can I ask you something? Can they get like a 2-hour limit on that street?
We can follow up with traffic engineering and transportation planning, because I believe something like that would probably require a modification. In many instances, it's actually written into the code when they do that, but I believe we can check into that process as far as on the city of Burbank side to see if there's something that would facilitate that type of turnover, and we can report back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Seeing none, go ahead and poll the board.
Board Member Elric,
Yes.
Board Member Monaco,
Yes.
Board Member Altakanian,
Yes, with the added provision as suggested by Mr. Ramirez, where in about a year we'll get a report on this, and not
On the policy.
specific on the policy, but not as to this particular site.
Vice Chair Azadi.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Great. Thanks for your presentation. Thank you for coming tonight. We're going to move on to item number 2. Now is the time and place for the hearing on project 21006775, a request for a conditional use permit to increase the maximum client capacity from 110 to 150 people for an existing adult daycare facility located at 3201 North Glen Oaks Boulevard. Before we begin, do any planning board members have any financial, legal, or other conflict of interest regarding this hearing?
No.
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 Have any planning board members had any communications, including written, oral, or with the applicant's representative, or any other person?
No.
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 Nope. Mr. Ramirez, have the notices as required by law been given?
Yes, they have.
And do we have any written communications on this matter?
We have not received any written communications beyond what's in your agenda packet.
Will the representative of the Community Development Department please introduce yourself and summarize the matter for us, please?
Good evening. May I have the presentation, please? So I'll wait for that to come up, but I'll start while it's loading. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair Rosati, and members of the board. My name is Amanda Landry. I'm a senior planner with the Planning Division. I'm presenting this project on behalf of the project planner, Joseph Pangilinan, who is not here today. For your consideration is a conditional use permit for the Glen Oaks Adult Day Health Care Center to increase the number of clients from 110 to 150. The applicant for this CUP is Shogeg Yerpeben on behalf of the property owner. Okay. So the project site is located at 3201 North Glen Oaks Boulevard on the southwest corner of North Glen Oaks Boulevard and North Frederick Street in the C3 zone. It is also near the city limits with the County of Los Angeles. The surrounding context is pretty mixed. It is generally commercial in nature to the west and residential in nature to the east. Some of the more notable things in the vicinity include Woodbury University to the north. There are some larger banquet halls and cultural centers and the St. Leon Armenian Cathedral to the west, as well as some restaurants and social services offices, and a 7-Eleven convenience store directly to the west. Single-family residential properties are to the northeast, east, and southeast of the property. The site itself represents a transition between the more intense commercial uses to the lower intense residential uses. So the applicant, as I have noted, is requesting to increase the capacity for clients from 110, which was approved in the year 2000 through a conditional use permit by this board. And at that time, a condition of approval was put onto the project, capping the number of clients at 110. However, the business has operated in the past 22 years with no issues, no complaints from the neighbors, no calls for services from the police, and no reported code violations. And they are coming here tonight to ask to increase the client capacity by 40 clients. No other aspects of the proposed business are being proposed to change. No alterations to the building are proposed. No alterations to the site are being proposed. And the current operating hours will remain from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And those are the on-site program hours. And then there is a few additional hours afterward for basically paperwork. And just for the board's knowledge, this type of use is regulated by the state in terms of staffing and facilities. And that's why staff is not proposing any conditions of approval related to the number of staff on site. The slide you see before you is a general overview of the project site, including the circulation and parking. You can see here that the circulation is calling for cars to enter the site from Glen Oaks Boulevard and exiting onto Frederick Street. In the green box is the loading area for passengers. Those spots are dedicated during certain hours of the morning and afternoon when patients are dropped off on site and picked up, and those are to be only used for loading. The other spaces on site can be used for parking for staff. So to go a little bit more into the client pickup and drop-off procedure, the business contracts with a van service with a fleet of 5 vans that will pick up and drop off all of the clients that go to this facility. And like I mentioned before, the drop-off period is 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. with pickup from 1:30 to 3 p.m. Because there would be an increase in 40 clients, there may be potential queuing and parking issues due to that small increase in clients. And to address this, staff is recommending a condition of approval that all of the clients use either the van service or be dropped off by caregiver or other private transit as part of, the resolution. So based on staff's analysis, the CUP request will result in a use that is compatible with the neighborhood character and the surrounding single-family residential, commercial, and industrial uses. And the proposed increase to the maximum number of clients will not detrimentally affect these surrounding neighborhoods. And therefore, staff, and even though there will be no anticipated adverse impacts, staff is still recommending a few conditions of approval just to ensure that. And with these conditions of approval, all 6 required findings for the CUP can be made. And those conditions of approval include capping the client number at 150 per the request, maintaining the business hours as stated previously in this presentation, requiring that the drop-off and loading happen on site in the area that they've indicated, and again, that all the clients be using the transportation or be dropped off. None of the clients drive themselves. And with that, staff, there have been, as Fred mentioned earlier, there have been no public comments. Staff did receive 1 phone call after the report was published with just a general inquiry about how the business operated, and staff was able to explain that to them, and they have no further inquiries about the business. Based on this information, staff is recommending that the planning board approve the CUP based on the determination that all of the required findings can be made, and adopt the attached resolution with the proposed conditions of approval. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now invite the applicant or their representative to address the planning board. You'll have a maximum time of 15 minutes for your presentation. Good evening.
Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, staff, and audience, good evening. I'm Shoik Yepremian Consulting, Inc. You have my address on file. I'm representing the operator of the Adult Daycare Health Center located at 3201 North Glen Oaks Boulevard. The business operator is also present here this evening if you have any specific questions. Staff made a very thorough presentation on our request, and I will not repeat the details. However, in the year 2000, the City of Burbank approved this adult daycare health center through a conditional use permit, resolution number 2786, with 19 conditions for a maximum of 110 participants. They have been operating and complying with all of those 19 conditions since the year 2000. I have filed a conditional use permit application with all necessary exhibits and documents, including the required 6 legal findings, for the request to increase the number of participants from 110 to 150. There are no other proposed changes to the existing operation or the building footprint, site plan, or any exterior building modification. The site contains a single 8,372 square foot building as one single tenant space with 25 on-site parking spaces. The services they provide to the community will remain the same. In conclusion, we would like to receive your approval this evening They have been operating this adult daycare health center at this location for 21 years without creating any detriment to the community or to the immediate neighborhood. They have an excellent reputation in how they operate as a business, and they would like to continue serving additional members of the Burbank's senior community. We concur with staff's recommendation on the CUP modification and their determination on the categorical exemption from CEQA under Class 1 existing facilities. My client also reviewed the proposed conditions that staff proposed and agrees with all of those conditions. We hope that you unanimously approve project number 21-0006775 this evening to increase the number of participants from 110 to 150 at this adult daycare health center. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. We will now open up the meeting to hear from any persons who wish to speak on this matter. Each person may address the planning board for a maximum time of 15 minutes. For members of the public that wish to speak to, 3 minutes. For members of the public that wish to speak in person, please present a completed speaker card to the planning division staff. If you wish to speak, members by telephone, please call 818-238-3335 to address the planning board. Callers will be placed in a queue until all comments have been received. The phone lines are now open. Please bear with us as it takes a few minutes to get the first few callers in. Please remember to lower the volume on your TV and your computer and take your phone off speaker when you deliver your public comment. Do we have any callers?
Not yet, but we will wait the 2 minutes.
Thank you.
There are no callers in the queue.
Thank you. There being no further public comment on this item, I now declare the public comment period closed. Would the representative of the Community Development Department like to make any further comments?
No further comments.
Thank you. Does the applicant or the representative wish to make any further comments? You have a maximum time of 10 minutes for rebuttal.
No further comments.
No further comments from the applicant. Does the board have any questions for the applicant or staff? Mr. Monaco.
Oh, that's right. If you're increasing the number of people to 40, is this something, by 40, is this something that has to be run by the fire department?
The application was routed to the fire department for comments. The fire department did determine that that building has capacity for the 40 additional clients. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
What's the maximum capacity that the fire department determined that the building has?
I don't have that number, only that they determined that the additional 40 was acceptable.
I have a question regarding the parking, and as part of the conditions of approval, it states here that I'm going to read from item number 5. and it says, in addition, to minimize the impact of any traffic that may be generated to the project, staff recommends a conditional approval placed on the project to require that all adult daycare clients utilize the company's van service. Is the who pays for the van service?
The applicant can provide a little extra clarification about that.
Can we have someone come up and just give us an idea of?
While they're approaching the dais, I just wanted to clarify the condition says that other means of transportation are also acceptable in addition to the van service.
Sir.
Hi, my name is Greg Korzolian. I was the original applicant for the conditional use permit in 2099. So I presented and I did it, not an owner operator. Regarding your first question about the fire department, by the fire department codes, we can have up to 300 people in the building. So that's the one thing. Second thing, we have a transportation company. It's parent company of the Glen Oaks ADHC, which they have the minivans, small cars, and they pick up the people and bring it, and the same thing, to take it back and forth. That's what we do. It's our company, basically.
Yes, the question was, who pays for that transportation?
Glen Oaks Adult Daycare Center pays for it.
Does the daycare person, the senior citizen, pay for that service?
No, they do not.
That's what we're asking.
No, they do not. We use access services. The state pays for it. And they use our minivans, which basically we pay for it.
All right, so that's
They do not pay anything.
So that's part of the monthly fee you
That
receive
monthly fee will get received from the state of California, yes.
for each adult.
That's correct.
Okay, and how many people will one van take? Is it different size vans
We
you have, or
we
the
have
same?
two sizes. One takes the minimum 8 people, 7 passengers with the driver, it's 8. And we have big cars, takes 11 people, 10 participants and 1 driver, 11. That's max cars.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I now declare the public hearing closed and the planning board will now deliberate. What is the planning board's pleasure?
Well, I think based on the information that we received, the building has a much larger capacity than what's being requested here, so I don't see any reason. And my issue with the vans and the parking, or not parking, but the trips, was that going to create a problem on Glen Oaks with the trips being increased? People wanting to make a left turn, other people coming down the street, and so forth and so on. Especially it's during the morning hour, rush hour, where parents trying to take their kids to school and people trying to get to work. So I'm not a traffic consultant or an expert, but I understand traffic because I've spent enough time in it. So, but in that regard, I think 40 additional individuals is maybe a couple of extra vans, maybe a couple of extra trips. That's not going to be an issue. So I will be able to support it.
My comments are, I just love the fact that we're getting our seniors out and socialized, and I think the good outweighs the bad. There probably will be a little bit extra trips, but I like the fact that our seniors are getting socialized and getting some activity. And I have a lot of comfort in that the state comes in and monitors these facilities. So I'm glad that we have something like this. I'm glad that I know we have an aging population in Burbank, and I'm glad they have some place to go to like this facility. So any other comments, or if somebody wants to make the appropriate?
I'd like to make a resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Burbank approving project number 21-00067775, a conditional use permit to increase the maximum client capacity from 110 to 150 people for an existing adult daycare facility located at 3201 North Glenox Boulevard, based on the findings of fact and subject to the attached conditions of approval. But I just wanted to add that, and subject to the previously issued condition. I mean, it's all inclusive, the what's been issued prior to this and in addition to what's we have here tonight.
Yes, sir.
Is that's okay? All right.
That's fine.
So we have a motion,
I'll second.
and we have a second. You want to poll?
Board Member Monaco,
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Board Member Elric,
Yes.
Board Member Atukinian,
Yes.
Vice Chair Azadi.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you all for your presentation, and thank you for coming. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 3. Now is the time and place for the hearing on project number 22-0002-606, a request for a conditional use permit to allow the incidental sale of beer and wine for on-site consumption at 2635 West Olive Avenue at Poquito Mas Restaurant. Before we begin, do any planning board members have any financial, legal, or other conflict of interest relating to this hearing?
No.
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 No. Have any planning board members have any communications, including written, oral, with the applicant, the applicant's representative, or any other person?
No.
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 Nope. Mr. Ramirez, have the notices by law been given?
Yes, they have.
And are there any written communications on this matter?
Nothing beyond what's been provided in your agenda packet.
Great. Will the representative of the Community Development Department please introduce yourself and summarize the matter for us?
Good evening. May I have the presentation? While I wait for that to load, good evening, Vice Chair Rosati, members of the board. My name is Joseph Onyebuchi. I'm an associate planner with the Planning Division of the Community Development Department. For your consideration tonight is project number 22-0002606, which is an application for an alcohol conditional use permit at the existing Poquito Mas restaurant located at 2635 West Olive Avenue. The project representative is Bert Angstrom on behalf of the applicant, Kevin McCarney of Poquito Mas Restaurant, and they will be joining us via the telephone today. The project site is located at 2635 Olive Avenue, West Olive Avenue, highlighted in yellow and red here on the aerial photographs, within the Media District General Business Zone, also known as the MDC3. The 717 square foot parcel is located at the northeast corner of North Naomi Street and West Olive Avenue. The site is adjacent to single-family detached dwellings to the north, as well as low to mid-rise commercial buildings to the east, south, and west. The CUP request is to allow the sale of beer and wine for on-site consumption only. Burbank Municipal Code Section 10-1-1116.3 requires that restaurants with the incidental sale and consumption of alcohol that are within 150 feet of a residential zone must obtain planning board approval of a CUP. This site is located within the 150-foot buffer zone and is therefore subject to CUP approval. The applicant is proposing minor modifications to the interior for alcohol storage. However, no exterior improvements to the existing building or surface parking lot area are proposed. And the primary restaurant use is permitted by right in this zone, and the CUP would allow the applicant to continue the primary use while adding the incidental sale of beer and wine for on-site consumption only. The hours of operation for the restaurant are 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. daily, and the application proposes the sale of alcohol within these operating hours only. The existing floor plan shown here indicates the storage and service of alcohol, which is outlined in red, is restricted to approximately 35 square feet of the overall 717 square foot restaurant, which equates to approximately 2.5%, far below the maximum 15% allowed in the Burbank Municipal Code Section 10-1-1116.6. No other physical changes are proposed or permitted. Public notice for this planning board hearing was provided in accordance with state and local laws, as Fred said, and as of today's hearing, no public comments have been received. The City of Burbank Police Department reported no nuisance or distress calls at this location. Based on staff analysis, the CUP request is compatible in neighborhood character to the surrounding commercial uses, which are made up of restaurants and various retail uses. The alcohol sale would be incidental to the primary restaurant use, as I said. The application proposed only minor interior alterations and no external improvements to the building or surface parking lot. In order to address any potential negative impacts, staff incorporated several conditions of approval into the resolution. The proposed standard conditions are consistent with similar requests. The conditions would require that at least 65% of the gross sales revenue of the establishment must be from food sales, no dancing, no more than 15% of the gross floor area be devoted primarily to the sale or consumption of alcohol, no alcoholic beverages may leave the premises, and alcohol sales only occur during the same business hours as food is sold. At this time, I would also like to submit for the record item number 3, which are additional development conditions that we received late last week that are attached to the application. In sum, there are 3 conditions, and I'll go through them briefly. Condition 1 states that the project shall comply with Title 9, Chapter 1 of the Burbank Municipal Code, as well as the 2019 Building Code. Condition 2 states that the business tax should reflect alcohol sales. And Condition 3 states that the property shall comply with accessibility requirements in California's Building Code, as well as the American with Disabilities Act. These conditions were shared with the applicant earlier, and they have been agreed to. The proposed request is consistent with the Burbank Municipal Code and the requirements needed to secure an alcohol CUP for the incidental sale of beer and wine for on-site consumption. Therefore, staff recommends the Planning Board approve the CUP application based on the determination that all the required findings can be made for project number 220002606 and adopt the attached resolution with proposed conditions of approval as well as the conditions that were just recently read to you and entered into the record. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now invite the applicant or their representative to address the planning board. You'll have a maximum time of 15 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you very much. I believe Brett Engstrom was going to call in. Yes. Okay, so I didn't want to take his spot. But I'm the applicant, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have. Okay, but the representative, the person who put this together for me, was going to call in. I don't know if he has yet, or if he has done that. But Brett, if you're watching, I'm here. I'm here to answer any questions you guys have.
Okay, we'll come back to you with questions. We'll wait a minute or two for the call,
Okay,
and then if not, we'll move on.
thank you. Brett,
Yes.
you are now live with the planning board.
Good evening. I'll let Kevin say his piece. Good evening. Commissioners, my name is Brett Engstrom. I'm here on behalf of the applicant operating as Boquito Mas Restaurant. First off, I'd like to thank the planning department for their efforts in bringing this application to a hearing. Very much appreciated. I'd also like to state that we agree with the information and the conditions in the staff report and would appreciate your support of the project. We do have Kevin and Patty, who are the owner-operators of the restaurant, and we're all available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is that the end of your presentation?
It is short and sweet, gentlemen.
All right, so why don't you just hang tight, because we may have some questions for you. Can you do that? Can we do this with the call-in feature or no? All right, so let's have you hang tight for a minute, and we'll just proceed with the meeting, and then we'll come back.
Of course.
Thank you. We will now open the meeting up to hear from any persons who wish to speak on this matter. Each person may address the planning board for a maximum time of 3 minutes. For members of the public who wish to comment in person, please present a completed speaker card to the planning division staff. If you wish to speak for members of the public who wish to comment by telephone, please call 818-238-3335 to address the planning board. Callers will be placed in a queue until all persons' comments have been received. The phone lines are now open. Please bear with us as we take a few minutes to get the first few callers in. Do we have any callers?
Not yet, but we will wait the 2 minutes.
Okay, let's wait the 2 minutes.
There are no callers in the queue.
Great. No more callers, no more speakers. I now declare the public comment period closed. Would the representative of the Community Development Department like to begin any further comments?
We have no further comments at this time.
Thank you. Does the applicant or the representative wish to make any further comments?
The representative has no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for staff or the applicant? Mr. Atakani.
Yes. Mr. McCarney? In the event the board, good evening. In the event the board approves your request, what procedures or processes are you going to be putting in place to ensure that sales only occurs to adults?
Thank you. We've had a ABC license at our West LA location for over 20 years. We ask everybody for ID, even if they look like me. And so the idea is we will not let anybody below age drink, and we're also not promoting a lot of drinking. It's more of a satisfaction for our customers that have been requesting this. And we've been there for 29 years, and we really take what we do seriously. This is all I do for a living. So we will take it very seriously. We'll make sure nobody gets that. We also have training that everybody is going through for the RBS training for the new laws from California. Everybody that is going to be serving it will have training to recognize anybody that may be inebriated or any other issues that may come up.
And that brings me to my follow-up question. You've been at that location for many, many years.
Yes.
Have you been the owner the entire time?
Yes.
I've known that location since I remember. And why haven't you applied for beer and wine for all that time?
A couple of reasons. I needed to build a second bathroom, and it cost a lot of money to do that. And so as we were doing other things, it wasn't a high priority. And we decided now, because of requests from customers, that it was time. And so we built a bathroom through planning and everything else. We went through that about a year. We built a bathroom, we put it on there, and we said, okay, now we want to acquiesce to our customers and what they're asking for.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions from the planning board?
So is it just?
Mr. Elwer, go ahead.
Is it just the customer's request? Do you have any plans for any of your other restaurants?
My other restaurants, this is the one of two that does not have ABC. This is, and the other one, eventually, if I can get a second bathroom over there, we'll do an ABC license. But a lot of it comes down to have that second bathroom, and we have been there a long time. My first employee I hired 38 years ago works at that restaurant today.
Just a comment. I really enjoy your food, so.
Thank you very much. Happy to answer any other questions.
Are you planning to sell your restaurants?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I get that
Are you
question.
planning to buy his restaurant?
No.
Well,
Let me represent you.
Yeah. This is what I do. My Patty, been with me for 30 years. This is what we do.
Thank you.
And you do it well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to make one comment, and I've known this restaurant my entire life, and it's very close to residential. It's right abutted against residential, and you never hear of any problems, any issues, and that's probably a testament to your ownership and management. So, seeing no other comments, I'm going to declare the the board's comments period closed. What is your pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Burbank approving project number 22002606, a conditional use permit allowing the incidental sale of beer and wine for on-site consumption at the existing Poquito Mas restaurant located at 2635 West Olive Avenue, based on the findings of fact and subject to the attached conditions of approval.
Could we note for the record
And we're going to
that
note
includes the
that item
amendments?
number 3 be incorporated as amended. Right?
Yes.
I'd
Okay.
like to second.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions, deliberation? Poll us.
Board Member Otakinian,
Yes.
Board Member Monaco,
Yes.
Board Member Elric,
Yes.
Vice Chair Rosati.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you for coming. Thanks for your application. Yeah. Now is the time for oral communication from the public. Any person speaking during this period may address the planning board on any matter concerning city business. Each person may address the planning board for a maximum time of 3 minutes. For members of the public who wish to comment in person, please present a completed speaker card to the planning division staff if you wish to speak. For members of the public that wish to comment by phone, please call 818-238-3335 to address the planning board. Callers will be placed in a queue until all in-person comments have been received. The phone lines are now open. Please bear with us as we take a minute or two to get the first few callers in. Please remember to lower the volume on your TV or your computer, and please take your phone off speaker when delivering your comment. Do we have anybody?
Not yet, but we'll wait the 2 minutes.
Thank you.
There are no more callers in the queue.
Okay, there being no further public comment, I now declare the public comment period closed. Now is the time for election of the chair and vice chair. The planning board will now vote to select a member to serve as chair and one member to serve as vice chair. I'm going to nominate Mr. Atakanian as vice chair. If we have a second,
I second that.
we have a first and a second. Any deliberation? Seeing none, go ahead.
Board Member Elric? Board Member Monaco?
Yes.
Vice Chair Azadi?
Yes.
Board Member Atakanian? Yes. Motion passes.
You never know.
And this is for 1 year, right?
It's for 1 year until you're renominated. Now we got to pick a chair. So I would like to be chair because I've been vice chair and I've been in this in-between period, so I'd like to be a chair.
So I'd like to nominate Christopher Rosati as chair.
Second.
Great. Go ahead and, any deliberation?
No.
Okay.
Board Member Monaco?
Yes.
Board Member Elric?
Yes.
Vice Chair Atakanian?
Yes.
Board Member Azadi?
I'd love to say no, but I'm going to say yes.
The motion passes.
All right. Motion passes. So we got an official chair, an official vice chair. Do we have any reports from staff?
No additional reports.
Do you have any big stuff coming? Any good stuff coming? Are we going out on any tours to look at anything?
Yes, you do. You have big stuff coming.
Yeah.
I'll say it in general terms, but yes, there's zone text amendments that are part of urgency ordinances that also need to come back
Yeah.
through the process with you all. So,
Okay.
in particular, SB 9,
Yep.
the lot subdivision, as well as firearm dealerships, and there may be another one in the near future. So those will be coming, as well as the specific plans. There's 3 specific plans: the one for Golden State, the one for downtown, as well as the one for the media district. Those will all come to the board. There'll probably be study sessions and then eventually hearings. So you guys will all be involved in that process.
Okay.
Did the planning division suddenly get an influx of new applicants of some sort?
New applications?
Yes.
Actually, we do. We have.
I'm talking about employees.
Oh, well, actually, we're short-staffed right now. But last year, council, I think it's been a year and a half, that the council did add, we went from, when I first started, 4 planners, and now we've tripled that number, but we could probably double that number and still have more work to do, so that's not a bad thing. But yes, there's a lot more planners, but there's also a lot more work currently underway.
Approval of minutes. Now is the time for the approval of minutes from May 9th, 2022. For the planning board, if there are no questions or comments, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Board Member Monaco?
Yes.
Board Member Elric?
Yes.
Vice Chair Atakanian?
I'm going to abstain. I believe I missed this one because I was stuck on a train.
Okay.
Chair Azadi?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Now is the time for introduction of additional agenda items. Planning board members may introduce new items for discussion, but no action may take place except to place it on a future agenda. Do any planning board members want to introduce anything? I would like to introduce one small thing. I'm not asking for like a crazy report, but can we have an update on the single-family home guidelines process? How's that going? I'm hearing not good, about the same, so I was wondering if, what are you seeing, what are you feeling?
Well, what we've seen is actually an influx of applications. So though we don't have single family, they still have to be reviewed, and they're going directly into plan check now. So now the backlog is not in the application review, it's just, we do still have a pretty big uptick in plan check review.
And less employees.
And yeah, and less employees. But that is not a bad problem. The good thing with it is, because things are going straight into plan check, what we're focusing right now on is getting the initial reviews done. And we've kind of set a clock where we're trying to do that initial review within like a 6 to 8 week window. and that's what we're focusing on. We'll be able to report, I think, within the year, because we have to do it to council as well. We can do that to you. And part of it is also noticing, when they go into plan check, they'll be posting notices of the actual entitlement on site.
Are you able to say, so in the past, it took 18 to 24 months to get a permit. Are you able to say it's taking how much time now?
What we can do is, we've created like this dashboard, so we report that to the city manager's office. What I can do, probably if you give me a couple of weeks, I'll give you a status update. We're trying to get close to that mark. Originally, it was taking us double that time just for the initial review. And the focus now is to try to get to that first review where we get comments to an applicant within that 6 to 8 week window. And I can tell you how close we are if you give me about a month or two. We'll get that report. But ultimately, we do have to report back to the council within a year's time of when it was originally approved. And I'll give you guys a preview of that around that time.
Okay, good.
I just have a question.
Go ahead.
Is there a list of things that we've brought up that we want added to the agenda in the future, or how do you guys keep track of that?
We've got one item that we included the other day, which was just scheduling a report from our BWP Water Division. There was also a request prior board member, but we're still on the clock for that, and that is to just give you an update of the things that we analyze when we present projects to you. And then the last thing is this item that the chair has brought up. So we've only have 3, but typically on the minutes, the record shows what the requests are, and we follow off of those minutes and keep a list. But there's really only 3 items at this juncture.
Okay, any city planner comments that you've already made?
No, we're good. Thank you all.
All right, guys, so let's take a look at item L. We will now adjourn to the meeting on Monday, October 10th, 2022, because the September 26th is canceled. So circle October 10th on your calendars so we can have a full meeting with board members. And the public can view these meetings in 3 different ways: in person, at the appropriate time of the meeting, or leaving an e-comment on the city webpage at www.burbankca.gov.e-comments, or by calling in to the planning board at 818-238-3335. Thank you, everyone, for your participation, and good evening.